Welcome to Quick Wins for Real Businesses with me, Robert Wolfson.
One of the biggest issues I come across is overwhelm. Now, overwhelm is basically a couple of things. It's an avoidance of failure. Because if you don't make a decision, you can't do it wrong. The trouble is that one decision comes along, you avoid making it, and it goes on the back burner. Another decision comes along, you avoid it, it goes on the back burner, and so on and so forth until there are so many unmet decisions running around in your head that you don't know whether you're coming or going. And so my job is to work with the client to figure out what is actually going on under the hood and get them into a state where they're back able to make decisions, because these people are already successful. They've already done the hard work, but something is kind of snuck in by the back door and has started being, creepy and insidious and taking them over, a bit like a virus from a horror movie.
So, when I understand it, you've got decision number one, which might be a bit difficult to actually decide on. And then you'll have decision number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And all these decisions will be building up, and that creates overwhelm. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem is most of these decisions aren't that difficult to make, but we get ourselves into a state where we think, well, if I go this way, I'll get laughed at, or I'll get critiqued, or I'll get judged. If I go that way, oh God, I'm going to get it all wrong and I will feel like a failure. So we do what we can unconsciously, because the unconscious mind's got one job, and that's to protect you from saber-toothed tigers and all that kind of nonsense. But primitive unconscious mind is still there. So if it thinks you're being chased by a saber-toothed monster, it will protect you, and it will say, you know what, let's not make that decision right now. Let's just leave it for a while. Let's put it on the back burner. So it's not, this is why I hate the phrase self-sabotage, because it's not self-sabotage, it's self-protection, it's self-defense. The unconscious mind is leaping into action like a 1930s hero to protect the damsel in distress. The trouble is it's got its wires crossed, and there isn't a saber-toothed tiger. There isn't an 8-foot King Kong. None of that is real, but the unconscious mind makes you perceive that it's real.
We take our fight or flight instincts and we just apply that to stuff, emails or decisions or things like that. And we either run away from it, or we just go into the 1930s superhero mentality.
Absolutely, because in fact, there are 4 things. There is fight or flight. There is, standing up for yourself and having this massive row with the opponent, in inverted commas. You could fawn and go, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, I'm rubbish, I'm hopeless. Yeah. And it just keeps going on and on and on until the last one, is freeze. You stand there like a rabbit in a headlight. We've all driven down country roads at midnight, and we've come across them, and it sits in the middle of the road and it can't move. That's where a lot of my clients find themselves.
So the question I've got is that, like you said, you deal with successful entrepreneurs. How did they must have made difficult decisions in their lives and businesses to get to this stage. Why are they suddenly freezing, or suddenly kind of what's changed?
Good question, Robert. The thing is, it's not suddenly. This is what I call creep. It happens over time. You don't suddenly wake up one morning and go, oh my God, I can't make a decision. It just creeps up on you. Maybe you've made some bad decisions and you ended up making more bad decisions. Maybe you made some good decisions but got criticized to hell and back for making that decision. There could be a lot of things that can kick it off. And the trouble we find is that most people can't put a pinpoint on what kicked it off. And that's one of my roles, is to help the client figure out, where did all this come from? Why am I suddenly gone from being really ultra capable and creating this 7-figure business to be stuck here, sat in a corner, dribbling booze down my shirt and not able to talk coherently? And I've had several clients in exactly that situation.
Essentially, I just my life experience, and as my family has grown up and I've got teenage kids now, they just need a lot more support and they need a lot more time from me. And I feel like that's really impacted on my mental health. The ability, we are 10, 15 years ago, I was able just to kind of just push it, just go for it. And my almost like to be absorbed in building a business and working with a client. But now life is just so more complex than that, that I can imagine this has things creeping up on me as well.
Absolutely right. The trouble is that when our kids are small, we can cope. They don't need a lot of attention in the sense that you don't have to check where they are, you don't have to do their homework and so on and so forth. But as they get older, particularly when they become teenagers, we start to worry. We start to kind of, oh my God, where is he? Where is she? What time's going to be back? And all that kind of good stuff. And the trouble then kicks in because you completely forget about this mystical thing called work-life balance. For most people, it doesn't exist. Most entrepreneurs get to where they've got to by flogging their guts out in their business. You know, they're working 8, 9, 10, 12, 16 hours a week, 1 or 2 days a weekend, and it becomes a habit. And until somebody steps in and goes, whoa, 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 Robert, you've got to take the brakes off a little bit and give yourself some space, that just drives you into the ground. And you get to a state where you don't know whether you're coming or going.
100%. You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking like, and there's so much kind of self-identity tied up with it and all that. So let's say myself, so I've been building my business for 15 years, and that's been my identity. And then you suddenly kind of say, let's say Paul comes along, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't, stop that second. Well, wait a minute. Who am I? Where's this come in? Where, I've got my relationship with my family, a relationship with other things, and I've got to slow down my work. And how's that going to impact my business? There's loads of stuff as we're talking, just going through my own mind with all of these different, that whole dialogue you were referring to before.
Absolutely right. And the thing we need to do is the one thing we don't want to do. And that is step back, take a look at your life, and you've got to say to yourself, something's got to give. And for an entrepreneur, particularly a successful entrepreneur, doing that feels like failure. Because for the past 15 years, I've been able to manage all this. I've been able to balance everything. And look at my business. It's thriving. I'm doing so well. I've got 4 or 5 businesses. I've got a team. And I'm doing great. On the surface, that's what it looks like. But below, you're bubbling like a witch's cauldron. And all this evil coloured stuff is coming out of the top of the cauldron. And it's doing your head in. The biggest difficulty that most of my clients face is actually taking that step back and looking at their life as if they were a neutral observer. And that's one of the things that I have to kind of help people with, to get them to take that step back and review what's going on.